Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 699th edition of the FEuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel FEuerstein, giving you American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, and locally at baddogsports.com. Join us now in the chat room on YouTube. We're going to have a great conversation tonight. And before we get this conversation underway, let me talk to you about this segment's sponsor. This show's sponsors, Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, Dino Luzzi. Crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to the show, because real energy comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders, including my panel tonight. Joining me down in Houston from the Bayou City Soccer, once again, Derek Stowers, who covers the Houston Dynamo, and, of course, the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, El Traffico TV, Mike Gray joining us. Guys, welcome to the show. It's great to see you guys again. Obviously, last week, the big news happened that the board of owners of Major League Soccer agreed for the 2027 and 28 season. We are no longer going from winter to fall. We're going now from summer to spring, and it's just been a whirlwind of intrigue, of some would say excitement, and even though those are a little apprehensive about this move. But, you know, from your perspective, and Mike, will go to you first. You know, the LA Galaxy, of course, one of the older and the original charter members of Major League Soccer. Well, of course, my club was originally the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. In your mind, is this something there where we should have just left this alone, or do you think it's about time we finally aligned ourselves with the international calendar?
Well, first of all, Dan the Man, Senor Stein, D-Dog. So nice to see you. I haven't talked to you in a while, but I always enjoy being on the show. Speaking of not talking to people for a while, hey Derek, hope you're doing okay. I miss Dynamo Theory. I miss the good old days back when we got to cover the league the way it should have been. So yeah, first of all, hope you guys are doing well. Obviously. Speaking as an old-timer who's been following the Galaxy since 1996, I mean, I'm chuffed to, like a British person would say, I'm overjoyed. How often does MLS actually make changes to the competitive format? Not very often, but if you look at what's happening with the schedule change, 90% of the schedule is basically going to stay the same in terms of, the dates. You're only really affecting maybe 10% tops. And basically in exchange for that 10% difference, you get the calendar alignment. So we're actually in a position where we can attract the best talent to the league. And that's, not only is that important for bringing players in, but more importantly, it's also good for replacing players. So say, for example, just to use an example, suppose some EPL, suppose Wolverhampton Wolves are desperate for just any sort of attacking talent so they don't get relegated. And theoretically, they buy Danny Bouanga for, 20 million panic buy, which of course it's not going to happen, but, just for the sake of the argument. In that scenario, they would get rid of, or they would, obviously move Boeing on during the off season. They can go ahead and find a replacement and have them basically ready to go in time for preseason. So, I mean, it's happened so many times over the years. Like, think about Minnesota with losing Ajaman. Imagine what they would be like if they had him right now. But of course, I got to let him go 2/3 of the way through the season, right? And so you have a situation where MLS teams can basically field the strongest teams possible. And then, for me personally, more than anything else, I love the fact that there's going to be an uninterrupted playoff scenario. I mean, that drives me crazy where, you have the playoffs you've got this, even the best around 3 thing is its own kind of, thing that I'm not in favor of. But that 3-week break, man, it just kills all the momentum. You almost forget that the teams are playing. I mean, so there's that. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to compete in CONCACAF Champions League. Another kind of what if scenario where, what happened? What if we had the actual strongest possible teams playing as opposed to these teams that are just always compromised? And it goes both ways and it swings the other way with the Leagues Cup, So I want to see both of those competitions get a little more just honest in terms of like having the best talent win as opposed to the most fit team winning. For me, it's just nothing but a whole bunch of positives. The only negative I can think of is, I'm sure Derek will agree with me, but I'm gonna miss the summer games. I miss showing up at the stadium. You can get away with a tank top. That's my look. It's my look. I get away with it, but
you can actually pull it off, Mike. Don't look at us. Well, you can pull it off. I know that for a fact. Don't look at us, man. I'm too old for this stuff.
No. I think people just put up with it more than anything. But nothing like showing up to a game where it's like 85 degrees outside. You can just kind of roam around everywhere, go to tailgates, talk to fans, talk to supporters. I mean, that part I'm really going to miss. But I guess I'm blessed in a way because I live in LA. So even horrible weather, like the theoretical, like November, February, it's going to be fine. But like I said before, I have a Don Garber story. I'll share it a little later after we hear some of your guys' opinions. But what I can say for sure is, and maybe I'm leading into it already, but in a way, the league has been so successful in terms of what Don Garber, and I'll just say it right now because I'm, American soccer, it's been like a century of like failure and the failure of league after league after league. Even the, NASL, as successful as they were, they folded, right? Don Garber is massively underrated, and I think we take for granted the fact that this was the first dude ever to take soccer, this sport that's for girls. It's not a real American sport, right? Well, I'm old, so that's the way it used to be perceived. And he managed to take that and turn it into a money-making machine. Now, this is America, so first and foremost, we're all about the Benjamins. We're all about making money, right? But inevitably, the only way that we would ever be able to improve the product and improve the quality of the players is that we would have to make money. You can't have one without the other. And so the fact that MLS is an enterprise that makes billionaires money, that was the thing that had to 100% happen before we could even talk about improve. As much as we want to be romantic about it, at the end of the day, these guys want to make money. So that had to happen before we could improve the quality of the league. And, you're seeing that in all sorts of ways. But I've been talking, so I want to hear you guys' opinions. I can do this for hours.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about it. But Derek, I mean, obviously, this has been an amazing turnaround to see. I think, we do have American owners that do own clubs in Europe. And I'm assuming, they've talked to these owners. Obviously, the Red Sox, their own Liverpool, the Glazers that own the Buccaneers, they own Man United. Kroenke is owner of Arsenal, who owns the Rams and the Avalanche and the Nuggets. I mean, I would have to assume that these sports owners here in the U.S. that own an MLS club have talked to their fellow owners that own a European club across the Atlantic.
Yeah. First of all, I double down on what Mike was saying. It's so great to be here and see you guys in face to face for once. Very nice. And to answer what you were talking about, I think it's difficult. I mean, I think Mike was really onto something about, yes, the league has to make money in order to be competitive and to keep churning out the kinds of things that both a product that people will come to see and something that will generate money while being in a market that's competitive across sports. And that's the one question that I have with this kind of move, because it's kind of twofold in many ways. Because my core question is, will it be successful? And that's multifaceted, and that folds into the ownership, obviously, because the owners obviously have some say and sway within how they discuss negotiations with Don Garber, who, again, I would say with Mike, yes, very much underrated in the sense of how he's taken a sport that kind of tripped over itself a lot and then found its footing, right? I think that's relatively fair assessment, and has gained more and more and more not footing again, but in terms of international recognition. But when it comes to just domestically, I think it's going to be interesting, because there's going to be more, that 10% that Mike was talking about. Some of it, there's going to be more competition with baseball, with more football, high school sports, like here in Texas. Friday nights are pretty big for high school football. So it's going to be difficult to try and keep people going to multiple things. So that's going to be a real thing. But the connections in terms of how, connecting with these different things. Pat Onsad said something in an interview when asked about this exact question. And he said that, it's going to be great for, it's great for the league in terms of how they're going to be able to actually connect with these clubs, because it's going to be easier for transfer things. And I think it's also going to be better for fans to go to these games because of how it connects with the international breaks, so that there's not these, superstars that are gone for games suddenly because they're gone, but the games aren't delayed or anything. Everything is kind of synced up, and it kind of works out that way. So it's a tough question in terms of how successful can it be, but it is what it is. I mean, we can't change anything. We're just talking about it. So, anyways, yield the floor.
Well, listen, I mean, to me, it's like this, and I understand what you're saying, Derek, and I also understand where Mike is saying here, because yes, they needed to make money to make sure that they can get to this point in time where, I'm hoping for, while obviously we're waiting for the next level of MLS 3.0, and then we're going to wait for the next level of MLS 4.0. But the problem is at times they still operate at a 1.0 level. And while I've always said this, where we all have to be patient about when this league will make the next step forward to where they should be. While I understand the need to get there, we are in a different position than anyone else across the world, including Europe and South America. We know what they're capable of doing. We know where they are. They've been like this for a long, long time. Here, this is like what, the fourth or the fifth iteration of a first division league. The ASL, the ASL2, the original NASL. Even at the time, USL was USISL, and they were considered first division. The A-League was considered the first division here in the States before MLS finally got the foothold it needed. So while I understood why they're doing it, and I also understand from, the other side of the argument where we got to now be like everyone else around the world. And I'm not arguing against that, but what I am saying is we need to know when we're going to make that move. And that one particular move has now been made. And I think it's just fantastic. And I'll post it right now so we can all take a look here. There it is, the MLS competition calendar. It's going to start in July of 2027. We're going to go straight into middle of December. Obviously, international breaks with the international calendar, where there'll be no matches. September, October, November. And then the winter break from mid-December through the Christmas and New Year's, and then the entire month of January, no matches. And then probably around, I would say, the beginning of February, maybe after the first week of February, they'll restart the season, and then we go into the sprint for the rest of the year until the end of April for the regular season, and then the entire MLS Cup playoffs in the month of May. Mike, I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. This is excellent. And, you know, not everyone can be like England when you have a calendar like this. Obviously, I don't know how harsh England's winters are, but, you know, Italy has a winter break. Germany has a winter break. Spain has a winter break. I mean, everyone else has a winter break except for England and Scotland and any of the United Kingdom nations that are over there in the British Isles. You know, they just plow right through. But, you know as well as I do where I'm originally from in the Northeast, especially the northern end of the country and of the 3 Canadian teams. Our winters are very harsh. I mean, I already saw a foot of snow a couple of weeks ago or something like that. Temperatures down to the teens, to the 20s, just below freezing. I mean, I think this is a brilliant idea to have a winter break and to save the legs so we don't have to worry about having frozen pitches or freeze outs.
Yeah, Danny. I mean, it's important to be cognizant of who we are. There's a reason why, you know, and I would classify it as American exceptionalism. It permeates every inch of our American soccer culture. That's why we're so just impatient. We need the league to grow now, you know? And then it's the same thing with the Euro snobs. I mean, there's a part of me that just, maybe it's just me, but it blows my mind, absolutely blows my mind that we have so many American soccer fans who are just negative about our league. And again, they got to put it in perspective and realize that, again, like for a century, soccer didn't work here. And all right, I'm gonna bring up the Don Garber story because it's about as good a time as any. Because I just want to put things in perspective a little bit. 2009 MLS Cup. It was the Galaxy. They traveled to Seattle to play RSL. I was enjoying the festivities. I went to some morning event, like some supporters thing. Basically the thing concludes, and then a very important marketing person who I can't say their name because I don't want to get in trouble. That person approached me and said, "Hey, you're going to the supporter or the some sort of blogging roundtable, and it was featuring Don Garber." And naturally my response was, "Yeah, of course I'm going, but also what hotel and what time?" And so a few hours later, I'm at some fancy hotel, 5-star hotel somewhere in Seattle downtown. We talk a little bit. Don Garber arrives. Cool cat in person, by the way. I've always liked talking to him. I mean, he's a spokesman, so obviously, but yeah, he tells a couple of cool stories, which again, those are for us, so I'm not allowed to repeat it. But here's where it gets interesting, right? At some point, he starts talking about the competitive format, and he was just absolutely insistent that MLS needed to have conferences, Western Conference, Eastern Conference. In fact, he was so, I guess, just, basically what he told us was that as long as he was running the league, it would just be a conference format and things would never change. So I'm not trying to put the pieces together, but I find it very, very interesting that after the DP rule was 2 decades ago, right?
Yes.
And so the league makes this announcement that they're going to change the calendar. In the span of a few days, not even a week, a few days, all of a sudden reports are coming out that the owners have a succession plan, or they met to begin sort of proceedings to find a successor for Don Garber.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like those things are kind of linked. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, I think Don came into the league. He had a specific way of how he wanted to run the league, which was to basically use the NFL playbook and use that to sort of build the league. And he was successful. In fact, I would argue that Don Garber was so successful running the league that might have hindered or delayed some of these competitive changes that have been needed. Because, I mean, when you look at the league's growth, why would you make drastic changes when you can just do, incremental progress? I like the TAM thing. I like the adjustments to go from 3DPs to adjusting it so you can have like 4 U22s, 2DPs. But these, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, like how often does MLS make wholesale changes to the competitive format? And so, like I said before, it's interesting timing. I think that Don, you got 30 teams in the league. You can't expand anymore, right? I think that you can, but
it's way too much, though. I mean, we can't go to 30. I think 30 is enough. I think we're 10 too many anyway, but I think 30 is enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that after 2 decades of unprecedented success, I think that Don is at the point where why am I calling him Don? I don't know the guy. Just what the hell? But I think Mr. Garber, I don't know.
My best friend.
I think the commish is at the point where maybe he's no longer operating in his comfort zone, where he's at the point where maybe new ideas, new energy would be required to sort of take the league to the next step. And from that perspective, I think he's making the right move to maybe to start to transition to where the league can perhaps find another commissioner. And also, he's probably got like $75 million in the bank by now, dude. Just relax, man. Go to Cancun for a week. Go watch a few
months.
Right.
I'd love to see Garber just go to a few games, just like as a fan, just totally.
Just the supporter section somewhere, going crazy.
Exactly.
Mind if I join in?
Maybe incognito. Yeah. Just to expand on what you're saying, Mike, you've made some really good points. I think, you definitely have to walk before you can run, before you can sprint, and go through all these different things. And, I think that gradual change has helped the league actually grow. And I think, your story about, has to have these conferences is very American, right? Especially because of how big the continent is and how difficult it would be to schedule certain things. It kind of makes sense from that perspective. But then you can kind of start to make changes if the things start to take hold. And they definitely have, like you've said. And from then you get to possibly get into things like the schedule change and the calendar change. And see where things can possibly go from there. And I just really hope that things continue to progress. And that's kind of where we're, at. Are they going to keep moving? Because this, even though what we're talking about isn't a super significant move for people that are already invested in the sport, it's how can we keep growing the sport? And especially within a market that's incredibly competitive. So I hope it takes hold, because doing the kinds of things where you can attract, and, from a financial perspective, it makes a lot of sense because you don't have to break the bank during during the January transfer window. You don't have to, you can actually pay people during certain times so it makes financial sense from the owner's perspective, but you also get to keep the stars, and that can potentially draw more people in. So hopefully that's kind of keeps the snowball rolling down, where it keeps growing and growing and growing to, not that there's snow in Houston really, but
You wish.
we had a freeze once, but
I tell you guys, just unbelievable what we're talking about here. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. I didn't think it was going to happen this quick. I really thought that this whole situation would still be delayed and delayed and delayed. I didn't think it would happen at all. I know they said after the World Cup they might vote on it. It might go through after the World Cup, but to make it like so fast, I think maybe the owners have said to themselves, guys, I think it's about time to make this switch. What do you think, Derek? Do you think these owners finally understood it's time to make the switch?
I think yes, they did, because they did make it. Apart from that silly answer, but I think I don't know if I'm getting feedback on if it's my end or somebody else's, but yeah, I think that the answer is that, yeah, they probably saw that it makes financial sense from them spending money on players is going to work, which can probably lead to more ticket sales. And even though it's going to be competitive in terms of competing with additional markets, keeping the diehards in there with that may or may not have shown up for games, if players were going to be there or not, it made sense, I think, financially for them to make those adjustments. And there are certain things that, I don't know, it just seems like very popular. Like, I think all of the owners usually don't get to speak, but I know a lot of general managers have been very, very positive about it. I know from the interviews I've seen with Pat here in Houston, he's ecstatic about how this is going to impact the team. So I think it's, and he wouldn't be saying that kind of thing without support from ownership. So I think it is a something that all of the owners took into consideration. I mean, different markets are going to have different perspectives on those type of financial things, because depending on where you are, there's going to be certain kinds of advantages, like what Mike was saying about the heat and everything, whether it's tank top weather or anything. But yeah, even Pat was saying, like, yeah, it's going to suck that Houston is going to have a couple fewer games here in the dead of the summer, which is most of the year. But that, it's also going to bring in cooler temps, which might bring out more people during the latter part of the year. So, there's trade-offs, but all of these things have been taken into consideration. And I think that whether or not it's financially the right move, it's the right move that they saw. And I think probably ultimately it is going to be the right move. It's just how, that random 10% that Mike was saying, if that is enough to keep that momentum going, I think.
No, I agree. And Mike, what you've heard from Will Kuntz from the Galaxy, even John Thornton from LAFC, they've expressed to you that this is going to be an advantage to both clubs for the future once we get past the World Cup next summer?
Oh yeah, Will was nothing but supportive of the new changes. Haven't heard as much from Thornton, but I think on soccer wise, Tom Bogart, Mr. Stash, pointed out that every single CSO that he's talked to was in supportive of it. To expand on what Derek was talking about, yes, absolutely. I believe that the billionaires, and again, one of Garber's accomplishments, which I was fully in support of, is that he managed to coalesce and build one of the most strongest, diverse ownership groups, not just soccer, American soccer, world soccer, just in all sports, right? I mean, this is a league of billionaires. But I strongly believe that these billionaires have a strong responsibility to grow the league, not only in terms of their revenues, but also in terms of the quality of play. Let me give you an example. Remember when the San Diego Loyal had to fold, more or less, because San Diego FC took over?
Yeah.
I was in support of that move. Didn't want to be. You always wanted to, be a man of the people, right? But I was supportive of that move, specifically because of the fact that if you want to have a strong league, you got to have strong owners, and that means having strong. You got to be able to bankroll the types of moves that are going to lead to progress in this league. Now, it's almost a reverse, because when the league started, a lot of these founders were heroes. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars to keep this league alive, to keep this league afloat, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. No, you're right. Alive, afloat, same thing. Yeah.
Dan Hunts, the Philip Anschützes of the world, they all deserve
Robert
massive credit. Yeah, Kraft, exactly. These guys all multiple teams, by the way.
Yeah.
But once the league became popular, it ushered in this growth where all of a sudden you had billionaires and conglomerates and corporations. When we're talking about Red Bull, you had all these, again, deep-pocketed owners who invested in the league, and they've all benefited massively. I mean, look at the franchise values of these teams compared to where they were even a decade ago. They've all made hundreds of millions of dollars. But you also have a league where, again, the competitive format and doing things that would improve the quality. A lot of these things were more about trying to save money, trying to be frugal, trying to not lose money. I mean, look at China. If you think that throwing a bunch of money at a league's a good idea, right? I mean, even Saudi Arabia, like they play in front of like 12 people, like, some games, right? Like you cannot buy your way into building a league. That's not how it works.
No,
which I like in a way, but because the history of the EPL and of the Bundesliga and Barcelona and all these, you can't buy that. You just have to. And, that's one of the things that, if I'm going to go on a random tangent, that's one of the things I despise most about, like, the Euro snobs, like the national team fans. It's like, hey, like, what was it? It takes something, that expression about taking a village or whatever. Like, you can't just sit on your ass, watch other people build a league, and then go, well, once it reaches a certain level, then I'll join in. That's fair weather fan bullshit, And the fact of the matter is, the league, it's a top 10 league. Like, if someone told you that MLS was one of the top 10 leagues in the world, like 2 decades ago, we would be just absolutely overjoyed. I mean, even now, the quality of the league, maybe some teams could use some more depth. I understand that. But, if you look at the Eastern Conference from this year, like from 1 to just, I mean, look where Orlando, like Nashville was, what, 7th?
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly. Like,
yep.
And you had so many good teams, so much quality. And it's like, I don't know. I think that's better than just 2 teams winning the same damn thing every year, like Scotland or Spain or whatever. But I've been very vocal about that lately because, there are times where you kind of like, it's like, come on, guys, like open up your pocketbooks a little bit. I mean, you remember the scandal maybe about 6 weeks ago with the AI articles?
Oh, yes.
Still on our jobs again, Derek. It's fucking bullshit. But like, I mean, like, why? Like, if you go to the NBA website, NFL website. You've got a thriving media. You have every team, article to article. More content that you can read, and if you go, the thing is, it's almost a little weird to complain about the media because a lot of them are my buddies. So I'm not trying to I'm not trying to
anybody.
I know, right? Like, if I point out that MLS. See, here's the thing: like MLS to me is Matt Doyle and Charlie Bone.
Mm-hmm.
That's MLSsoccer.com. So now I'm offending 7 or 8 different other people by saying that. So exactly. But that's just how it is. Those are the must-read. When they write an article, you have to read it. Everyone else, it's like, I can or whatever. And imagine just having a professional sports league and you only got 2 writers that you can actually read the material. And that's the thing where it's like, okay, you guys, if you want to grow up a little bit, if you want to be, with the big boys, if you want your league to grow, you gotta invest a little bit in it. And again, that's what makes the fact that they're doing this change so exciting, because everyone's been clamoring for change for like the longest time.
Yes, exactly. Speaking about that change, I like doing mock schedules, mock calendars for different types of competitions. I feel that need to be improved or whatever. And of course, when MLS did create the news about making that move into the international calendar, yes, even I had to get into the situation with the mock calendar, and I guess I don't have it up here. I thought I did, but I guess I don't, but that's okay. So basically, starting in July, then they go straight into the September international calendar. Now, I don't know if it's true or not that FIFA's gonna mesh both September and October windows in the future into one big block. We'll see if it does happen, but until then, I kind of left it as we go 9 straight weeks into the new season from middle of July till the international break in September of 2027, and then another 3-4 weeks to October for the break, another 3-4 weeks for the November break. Then we go on till mid-December, and then we go on the winter break. And then in the back end, this is where you're going to have to really intervene with CONCACAF Champions Cup midweek games, U.S. Open Cup midweek games. We'll see what they do with Leagues Cup. I don't know what they're going to do with Leagues Cup. Some have said, well, probably during January, they'll probably have it at a neutral site somewhere in the southern end of the United States, or maybe they'll go into Mexico finally to play some games there. We'll have to wait and see what the Leagues Cup will do. But until then, those are the 2 fascinating things about what needs to happen when you're including separate competitions not part of league play. And Derek, when depending if the Dynamo finally gets back into the Champions Cup, Mike, will the Galaxy ever get back into the Champions Cup? I'm hoping the Red Bulls will get into the Champions Cup sometime soon. But we'll see when that happens. But where do you feel that finally the schedule makers are finally going to come together from MLS, U.S. Soccer, CONCACAF? They can finally put their heads together and say, now this is what we needed to do from the beginning on. Derek, you first.
Yeah. It's going to be down the line. It is not all going to come together at once. I think it's going to be some trial and error, and people are going to be upset. But I think, that's the kind of thing that if you're in that competition for a club, it's, you're doing it just like everybody else, and you've got to roll with it. And I think it'll take some time. Because getting that many heads to synchronize all at once is not easy, especially with money involved, and then scheduling is always issues. Anyways, yeah, that's what I think. I think it's going to take some time, several years, but maybe there's some hiccups along the way. Some things might not work, but I think they probably will all be steps in the right direction towards kind of trying to synchronize.
Yeah, I'm with Derek on this one. You're never going to create a perfect schedule that pleases everybody. I mean, I think the new format is indicative of that. Yes, you're not going to have some perfect little calendar like the EPL, but what you do have is every team playing each other every year, which I think brings far more relevance to the Supporter Shield. And yeah, Danny, we're just gonna have to wing it, roll with it, year at a time, see what happens. Leagues Cup. What do you do with Leagues Cup, man? New Leagues Cup format. Only 2 teams from each league. There, you fixed it.
It's called this. That's what the Leagues Cup is, gentlemen. I call this. Put it in here. Put Leagues Cup right in here, and just toss it to the side.
It's not that bad. It's just it's the same problem as the Champions Cup. They gotta level the playing field in terms of fitness and location, by the way, so that you have teams playing both in the US and Mexico, which is never going to happen because the whole point's to just milk the US because we're cash cow. But yeah, what they can do is at least schedule it so that both sets of teams are fit, because at least then you can kind of make the argument that, all right, if you're playing Club America in Houston, they're probably going to have a bit of a home field advantage, and that kind of evens it out a little bit, as opposed to, at least with the powerhouses, you'll have more of an even split. So again, nothing's ever going to be perfect, but yeah, just Leagues Cup.
Yeah,
I don't have a magic answer for that, other than it's going to fuck things up. But
look, I agree with you. I agree with you guys anyway, because look. This is one of those things where they're just going to have to just plot the course, and they're going to just try and stay on the straight and narrow as much as possible. If they go a little to the left, they go a little to the right, so be it. But like I've said, this is the most important thing I think right now that MLS needed to do. Outside of building stadiums, which is still a number one thing this league must have. I mean, I know New York City FC is ready to move into their new stadium. It's almost done at Etihad Park. I'm hoping in the future Atlanta United builds their own stadium. I'm hoping the Sounders build their own stadium. Obviously, Vancouver can build their own stadium. The Revolution are trying to build their own stadium. We'll see what happens now. Apparently, they got a new Everett, and as the current mayor was already, he lost his re-election campaign. So who knows? Hopefully, the stadium in Everett is still on the table over in Massachusetts, just on the other side of the river from Boston. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But, and hopefully San Diego will no longer be in Snapdragon. They can go build their own stadium, maybe hopefully somewhere downtown San Diego, maybe build it somewhere next to Petco Park where the Padres are. Of course, that's just my wishful thinking. We'll see what happens. But, once again, it's not just stadiums now. Now this is, the real other part of making this league into the 3.0 trajectory that I know you guys wanted, I wanted, and everyone else wanted. And let me also say this too. How many times have you heard other people from where you live? Obviously, Mike, you've got the Chargers and the Rams, you've got the Kings, you've got the Lakers, you've got the Clippers and the Dodgers, and even out in Anaheim, not far away, but still though, you got the Angels. Derek, you've got, besides the Dynamo, you got the Texans, you've got the Rockets. There's a birdie telling me that Houston might get an expansion team in the National Hockey League. How many times you guys have heard, well, what's going to happen when, you're going to be interfering with the NFL and the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA Finals? Like, so what?
Yeah.
So look, this is why you got to become a big boy league. What do you think that the Clippers or the Lakers care what the Kings do? You think what the Rockets care what what goes on during the Astros season? When it's the World Series? Of course not. They understand everything intertwines. They know everything's going to come together at a certain point. I mean, sooner or later, we have to look at ourselves and say MLS needs to worry about MLS. You cannot worry about the other fans. Look, I'm a fan of the other leagues too. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a New York Jet fan. Don't you yell at me for that. Don't do that. I'm a Knicks fan. I mean, I've been like that for a long, long time. I started off as a kid in the early to mid 70s with the Cosmos until the NASL was gone. And then when the World Cup came in '94, there was the Metro Stars, now the New York Red Bulls. And look, I'm balls to the wall for my soccer club, for my football club. But you know what? Can't worry about what the other leagues do. You can't. Don't even worry about it. Look,
Yeah.
Another quote, Breaking Bad. God, I'm such a nerd, but it's definite, like, danger. I am the danger. That's kind of the vibe you gotta have. Like,
Yeah, no, that's such a great perspective, because that's one that you don't really hear. You always hear that kind of defensive thing of, whoa, what about the other guy? What about the other guy? But yeah, you're right. It should be, but what about me, right? And you never hear that. That's actually the first time I've heard that perspective, because a lot of it is, how do we grow the game in this way and that, and you don't want to step on toes and things like that. But at some point you've got to be yourself. You got to grow up, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I mean, we can't worry about what the other leagues do. Look, the NBA will be fine. They'll still have their fans. The NHL will be fine. They'll still have their fans. You're still going to have these fans. One city is always going to have, if you have two teams in the same league, in the same city, it's going to happen. You'll have Clippers fans going against Lakers fans, and vice versa. But if you have one guy who probably likes LAFC, and you have another guy that likes LA Galaxy, and he's also a Lakers fan, but there's a Lakers game, and then he's got an LA Galaxy game. It's like, look, I'm going to the Galaxy tonight. I could always DVR the Lakers game. It's not a big deal, or vice versa. Whatever you want to do, they'll still go to one of the two games. It's not a big deal. Just DVR it and then just watch what happened afterwards. Or you hope that scheduling wise, the Lakers will play an afternoon game, and then you go to the Galaxy game at night. It's happened before. I mean, how many times I've seen, and I will say this, it's happened before in the past too. We have seen, well, at least I have seen 3 or 4 different sports between the New York City sports teams and the Washington, D.C. sports teams battling it out against each other. I've seen on the same day, I've seen Red Bulls or Metro Stars versus DC United. I've also seen New York Rangers against the Washington Capitals. I've also seen the New York Giants against the Washington, then the Redskins, now the Commanders. I mean, it's happened.
It's easy. Just don't be the Chicago White Sox, because then you got to deal with the Cubs. If your competition's the Cubs, like the Chicago Bears and the Chicago Bulls, you're just kind of screwed, right? But that's one tiny little example. I think, man, like now I'm thinking about, I like how there's starting to be more and more ambition within the league with these teams. I think that's another thing that drives me crazy. I mean, for example, I happen to have a soft spot for Jalen Neal, formerly of the LA Galaxy, and then he gets moved to Montreal, and it's like, this is another tangent, but man, like if there's a team in the league where it's like Joey Saputo just needs to bring in investment or sell the team, because I swear every aspect of the organization is just on the cheap. I mean, you guys realize that Stad Saputo didn't even have freaking plumbing. They had porta potties for their toilets, right? And it drives me crazy, because they were kind of for a while they were a very kind of cool, kind of eclectic, kind of quirky club. They were really good at bringing in those French imports, whether it was, oh my God, I'm blanking.
Drogba from Ivory Coast
or Montreal, but no. You think of Marco Di Vaio, you think of Drogba,
Italian. Yep.
You think of even you think of Thierry Henry coaching Montreal, and then he has an assistant by the name of Wilfred
Nancy. Yep, and now he's coaching Columbus. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and they used to have this kind of cool identity, and they were able to be semi-successful too. But it's not 10, 15 years ago. With all these new owners and all the investment that's being put into teams, they just aren't. I don't know what they're doing. are they making money? It feels like they're just kind of existing just to be competitive as opposed to actually try and win titles. And unfortunately for my friend Derek, I would maybe, I'm sure he'd agree with me, but I would put Houston into that category of teams where it's like, just I feel like the team just doesn't spend enough, and they've been rather frugal. And all right, fine. They paid a lot for Ponce. Did it work out? Not quite so much. At least if you talk to the experts, But yeah, that's one of my pet peeves is like, and you can't escape it. Every single league of any team anywhere on earth is going to have like slacker clubs, right?
Yep.
And even my good friend Matt Pollard, I I said something to him once, which was kind of backhanded compliment, but what I was trying to say to him was, "Hey, man, like you do such a good job of covering a team that isn't like inherently successful, and that's got to be so tough." You know what I mean? And I'm really hoping the team improves because you've got these guys who put so much work into it, and then what the club doesn't reflect the efforts that they're putting in. And but he's a baller, man. He got Chris Armas fired. That's a joke, but I've told him that before. Like, you got Chris Armas fired, man. There's no way he's coming back after that embarrassment. But all right, like that's Armas' fault, not Matt. Matt was just being a class act, and Armas couldn't match his energy, so that's that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I know Chris too. So he's a good guy, actually. I know. Just the competitor in him just got a little too ahead of himself. Unfortunately,
we've all been there. Maybe arguing with like an ex or something, and just you say something, you say something that you regret later, and it happens to everyone. To his credit, he did apologize, and it was a sincere apology, not some canned PR bullshit. So
no, he's an actual sincere guy. He definitely wears his heart in his sleeve. I can definitely tell you that with Chris Armas.
And he's a quality coach too. I just think that like sometimes maybe your best role is to be the guy behind the guy, maybe as an assistant. There's oh god. All right, one more kind of pet peeve, but like you have Eric Ronaldo. For me, he's the perfect example of, and let's not get political. I'm just going to kind of say it. We'll move on. But he gives me like Elon Musk syndrome. What do I mean by that? I mean,
inherited emerald mind.
Eric Ronaldo is a brilliant soccer mind. If he just stuck to just analyzing soccer and his opinions on that, I think he could have done very well for himself, both with the league and the national team. But part of his problem, and a lot of people have this problem, including a lot of celebrities, a lot of people on social media, they get to this point where they reach a certain level of popularity, and then they think that it's their job to comment on everything. And no one is smart enough to comment on everything. That's how a guy who, I tremendously admire Elon Musk for everything he's done at Tesla and his own companies. It's when he starts talking about, trying to rescue kids from like a submarine or whatever, and all of a sudden he's a little bit out of his depth, right? And that's kind of the problem I have with Eric, is that he kind of got to this point where he kind of thought he was like, maybe main character syndrome, where like, everything revolves around his opinion. And it's like, dude, just stick to the soccer, man. You played in Germany. Like you were like, you achieved so much with the national team. You achieved so much in MLS. Just gonna stick to that, like that's why Kleston and McCarthy, they're doing MLS on air, and they're on air because their opinion, they stick to the opinions and they don't kind of go outside of that. And so, personally, it just bugs me because, again, I have to respect the guy a lot. I think it's sad that he kind of sullied his reputation a little bit by just trying to be the expert on anything. I mean, does that make sense?
No, I understand where you're coming from. Let me say this about Eric. Look, I respect him for what he's done for the national team. I respect him for his ability being a fantastic goal scorer for club and for country. Look, we all have our own opinions. I have my opinion. You have your opinion. He has his. I know Derek has his opinion. I do understand what you're saying, but once again, I think. Look, I know we love the game and we want to see it grow in the country, and so does he. He shows it in a different way, true. But look, he feels in the way that he sees it, and I respect him for how he sees it. And you see the game in your own way, Mike, and I respect you for how you see it. So, look, some are right at the same time, some are wrong. There's a little bit of somewhere in between where we can really coexist. But for now, look, you got your opinion, he has his, and hopefully that's why we have these shows, because our opinions matter of where we believe the game should be. And that's why I have you both on, because I want your opinions. Of course, not only are we former SB Nation brotherhood here, but I respect both of you, and I really do love having you both on my show, from just doing the audio show up to now with the video show here on YouTube through StreamYard. I just appreciate you guys, and I always want to go to you guys because, like I said, the brotherhood of SB Nation, of all of our soccer sites that we covered on that platform, which of course I'm not happy with where they are currently. And I mean, yeah, Portnoy's a good guy in some ways, but he's still a schmuck in my mind. Sports, and I won't go that far, but let's just say not my cup of unprofessional tea. Let's put it that way. But other than that,
he's a whiner. But
exactly.
Yeah, I found out that Dynamo Theory was going down right after I got out of jury duty. That was great. And everybody was like, "Oh, Derek, wrong time to have your phone off." That was great. I know that we're wrapping up, I think, or it sounds like it. I just wanted to
wrap it up very soon. But anyway, let me just say this. I left. I don't mind saying it now because I can say this. I left SB Nation 2 years before they shut down with the soccer sites because of the managing editor they hired to take over. I will not mention his name because he is a persona non grata to me. But if you remembered the article Phantom of the Arena, and at the end of it really disgusted me because he allowed a horrible caricature of a former Red Bull player who is still currently with Nashville SC, Alex Muil, and they photoshopped his face in black and white. They put his head on a cartoonish body in a basement, and they had him chained up in a basement.
Jeez.
Underrated player, by the way. I just feel like pointing that out.
Yeah, that's fine. You can say whatever you want. Look, I had my professional gripes against Alex. I thought he was a good player, an energetic player. He always wanted the ball. He tried to score a lot as much as he could. He dove too many times. That was my point against Alex Wheel. Legitimate criticism. Just got to stay on your feet. Stop diving for penalties. Because then the referee's gonna say you're not gonna get the penalty from me because you keep diving, and that's a legitimate criticism that I gave him. Now, obviously, he's grown up from that now. Thank God, he's been a lot better in Nashville. I'm not saying he's superstar status, but he is an energy player. But you're on Nashville, and some idiot who was a part of my team wrote that, and my managing editor allowed it to be published. And that's when I said, I'm done. I cannot stay with this publication. I didn't want to leave you. I didn't want to leave you. I didn't want to leave anybody from SB Nation. But, I have my morals when it comes to being a professional, because I felt that if I stayed, I would be defending that stupidity, monstrosity. I had to leave.
I'm glad you walked away when you got the chance, Danny. And, just to add, man, I'm really happy that you're doing well. I mean, dude, like, did you see that intro? Like, you're sponsored by an Italian energy drink now. Like, are you in? How do I know that you're not actually in Italy right now and you're in just some cool condo that's like you're 100 yards from Lake Como and we don't even know it, man. You need to adjust that camera angle so we can get a better view of the paradise you're apparently living in now, mister.
Yeah. My managing editor now, he's the owner of the website Bad Dog Sports. He got the sponsorship deal, so that's why.
Oh man! Oh well, ooh, like
I know. I know.
I gotta
No,
admit,
look,
you're
I'm
good
still
hype on
humble.
it, dude.
I'm still humble. I am not letting it go to my head. By the way, buy it. No, I'm still a humble guy, and look, I'm just grateful to be working with a great guy in Mr. JJ Pavlik. He does. We work well together, and it's just great being a part of Bad Dog Sports. It's a great company to work with. He's a great guy, and look, I'm just grateful that I'm helping him out. So and being a part of the team. So look, as we are about to say goodnight to this show here, I want some final thoughts from both of you. Mike, we'll go to you first, and then we'll finish it off with Derek.
Oof. Well, what a lovely discussion, gentlemen. I must have listened to like 7 or 8 different podcasts all talk about the competitive format and the changes. So really, I just wanted to show up and just maybe give a few. The more people talk about it, the harder it is to come up with an original opinion, right? So I just tried to come with some stuff that I think we could just discuss. And man, thanks so much for having me on. The thing is, there's been different podcasts that I appear on weekly. I feel like I need 3 appearances before I kind of, get the rust out of my system and I'm just a bit more smooth, I was expecting to maybe stumble over my words a little bit, but I feel like I'm doing a decent job tonight. So I'm happy.
Perfect.
Man. But yeah, it's nice to see you again, Derek, part of the SB Nation Brotherhood, as Danny calls it. And yeah, man, who knows? Maybe we'll open up maybe we'll reopen SB Nation someday to give it a better name, like I don't know, like soccertime.com or something. I'm an ideas guy, but for that one, I just drawing blanks. So yeah, thanks so much for having me on, man. We hit the hour mark. It's talking about rule changes. I mean, what about the cool nerds we are, right?
Exactly. Nothing better. Go ahead, Derek. Your final thoughts, please.
Yeah, to kind of go back to the thesis of the conversation. Talked about rules for about an hour and all sorts of stuff. But ultimately, what this is about is growth, and will it happen, and will it not? And we've had great stories about how we've grown, from the past to where we are now. And I guess the biggest question is this going to be the next thing to take us into what, Daniel, you were calling MLS 3.0, and then will we get to 4.0 and so on and so forth? But I really liked what you had to say about, the league needs to hold its own identity. I mean, that is such an important thing because, the NBA isn't concerned with what the NFL is, doing. I mean, they probably are to an extent, but not in terms of their identity and how they, can carry on favor with fans. I think that's an important distinction that honestly, is an opinion that needs to be, heard a lot more in the soccer world. And I really liked what Mike was saying about, how different, how these things have affected different cities and, certain things. And I really, it was a pleasure just being here and, being able to see you guys face to face, so to speak, thank you again for having us. And, this was a pleasure.
It was great to have you guys back on again. And my final thought is this, and this also goes to all of you who support a club in Europe as well, whether it be in the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga. You can watch your clubs in the morning and early in the afternoon, but now you have room for your MLS club at night. And even if they do play an afternoon game, whether it be at 2:30 in the Eastern time or 4:30 in the Eastern time zone, as we all know, the 2026 regular season schedule is now out at MajorLeagueSoccer.com, MLSsoccer.com. When we get into the short sprint of the first 3 months of 2027. Then we take another break, and then we really get rolling in July of 2027, going into the new year of 2028 until end of April of the regular season and the entire month of entire month of May for the playoffs. So hold on to your hats, get into the roller coaster, and loop it around as much as you want. Now we are there. Not completely yet, but we are on the trajectory to get there. For Mike Gray of El Traffico TV, for Derek Stowers of Bayou City Soccer, my name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Take care, so long, and bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.